Rev up your engines and put your pedal to the metal because it is cosmic go time. Well, it's almost cosmic go time. You know, it wouldn't be a transition into Aries season if we didn't get a little ahead of ourselves. Because yes, this week's astrology does indicate a quickening of pace. It does indicate a new beginning. We don't just start Aries season, we start a brand new year astrologically. It all begins when the sun enters Aries. And so there is a natural impulse as the sun initiates its new journey to ask ourselves, what is it that we are wanting to initiate? What is it that we're wanting to start? What is it that we're wanting to move towards? And on the same day, Mercury stations direct, echoing this theme around onward, forward momentum. And while you are supported to envision brand new beginnings with this week's Pisces New Moon making exact sextile to Uranus and Taurus, while you are supported to envision and embolden novel sides of yourself with this week's Neptune Cazimi in Aries, while you are supported to take on new risks guided by your intuition with Mars in Pisces training Jupiter in Cancer, there is a little bit of a hold your horses type of energy, which is going to be hard. This week's horses are hard to hold, so to speak, because there is this surge of fresh new energy. There is this surge of new dreams and giving yourself permission to dream those big dreams. There's an energy where we're less enticed around wanting to romanticize and idealize the past, and we're wanting to dream new dreams for the future. There is this energy where we are moving forward, but it's also knowing that Mercury, while it does station direct, ending the retrograde, it has not cleared its post-retrograde shadow. And let's be real, with Neptune energy this week and a strong Pisces signature, we are being a little delusional. We are being a wee bit idealistic, which to step into courageous fresh starts, we do need to be a bit idealistic. We wouldn't start anything if we weren't at least somewhat delusional about it. So yes, you are being asked to untether yourself from reality enough in order to envision the next cycle, the next season of your life that you are stepping into with all of this fresh new energy. But maybe keep one foot on the ground. Try not to get swept away, because with Mercury having not cleared its post-retrograde shadow, there can be a tendency to gloss over the details. Your impulses can get the better of you with Sun and Venus in Aries, and you can bite off a bit more than you can chew. Or true to Venusian matters, you can charge more to your credit card than you want to pay. Or you can commit to a new drastic hair transformation that's more than what you can realistically maintain. Or you can say yes to a bunch of dates that you really don't have the energy or desire to really go on. With Venus square Jupiter midweek, there can be an excessive vibe. With the Pisces new moon, there can be a bit of an idealistic vibe. And with the Neptune Cazimi, there may be a delusional vibe. But lucky for you, you have stepped into my cosmic corner of the internet, where I've got you covered on all of the vibes that you will experience this week. And true to Magic Monday style, what this means for your world, how you will feel these Aries energies weave into your world. Mercury stationing direct, how that's likely to show up within your life. Not only are you given a roadmap of the astrological roads that we're driving this week, you also feel empowered to make it magical, to make it you, to grab hold of the opportunities, to steer clear of the challenges. I've got you covered every single week here in my cosmic corner of the internet. So if that feels to be in alignment with you, I would so deeply appreciate your follow, your subscription, your like, your comment. Any little bit of engagement is so appreciated on my end. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for sipping your morning cup of coffee with me or your evening cup of tea with me. And if you tune into Magic Monday regularly, you may be asking, Miss Haley Comet, what are you sipping on to start this week's astrology? Please hold. So here in the Cosmic Cafe, we're shaking things up. We're trying new things. Very apropos for Aries season. So I have here flower bloom tea. You can see it at the bottom. And I went in, just boiled this water so we could experience this together, because I'm just not sure what is going to transpire. And I believe these blooms are meant to be used for a glass teapot. I don't have a glass teapot, so we're making it work together. So let's go ahead and see what happens. Okay, I'm gonna see, hopefully it focuses. Okay, that was deeply underwhelming. I thought it bloomed once the water went on it, but so far no bloom. We'll keep our eye on that. We will see how that unfolds. But yeah, that was very anticlimactic. So we'll see how that goes. You know, downside of trying new things sometimes it doesn't exactly pan out, but who knows? I'm going to give the flower time to bloom. We need to give things time, right? Even with all of these fresh starts and new beginning, with the sun ingressing into Aries and Mercury stationing direct, things take time. Flowers take time to bloom, and the Cosmic Café takes time to get our recipes all dialed in. And Aries season is a time for authenticity. Aries season is a time for honesty. So be honest with me. If you looked at your bank statement right now, would the amount of DoorDash orders from the past year be actually embarrassing? I just saw something that made me pause. You know how the app needs your location to drop off food? Well, there are allegations that the app might have been tracking way more than just the driver and sharing that info with third-party companies without our consent. And those companies may have improperly used the information for their own commercial purposes. We're talking precise location data, like exactly where we are without us knowing or consenting to it. It's a massive privacy concern because look, we use the app for food, not to have our data shared for profit. And that's exactly why Morgan & Morgan is stepping in. They're America's largest injury law firm, and they're investigating this right now to help protect consumer privacy. So if you use the DoorDash app between 2023 to 2025, you need to check this out. You may be entitled to up to $750 or more. I put the link right here. It takes literally less than 5 minutes. It's for a free case review. Don't let them profit off of your data. Go check. Aries season, it's time for honesty. It's also a time for advocacy. So thank you so much, Morgan & Morgan, for sponsoring this episode of Magic Monday. And without further ado, let's get back to the astrology in our vibe check of the week. Still no blooming. It does look like there is some steeping activity happening, but still no blooming. But we'll keep our eye on it together throughout the course of Magic Monday. But let's take it into Vibe Check. So Vibe Check of the Week is a segment here on Magic Monday where we compare all of the astrology that we will experience this week, from Mars in Pisces trining Jupiter in Cancer, the new moon in Pisces making a loose conjunction to Neptune and Saturn, the sun moving into Aries, Mercury stationing direct in Pisces. We take all of that and we compare it to a real life scenario so that you don't get lost in the sauce. You know, with Mercury retrograde for majority of this week, there's a high likelihood that we can get lost in the sauce and a little confused as it relates to details. So this is essentially a symbolic story that helps you make sense of some realistic ways that this energy can surface within your life. So this astrology feels like one of those nights that you decide to change your whole life. You ever have one of those nights where all of a sudden you just feel so inspired to get your entire life together? We'll say, just to paint a picture here, we will say that you, as one is apt to do, this Mercury retrograde in Pisces, you are looking at old photos. You are looking at old videos. You are creeping yourself on social media, taking a walk down memory lane. This is very alive with this current cosmos. And while we know that our future needs us, and this Aries energy is asking us to initiate and start new things, there can be an energy of reminiscing on the past. And it's a night where you can't sleep and you are just revisiting all of these different eras and times of your life. And a familiar theme that you're seeing surfacing as you revisit all of this is your love, your passion for all things connected to scent. You have a deep love for perfume. You have a deep passion for essential oils. You have a deep affinity for different herbs that you like to work with. And you're just seeing that as a consistent through line around a consistent passion that you've had over the years. Your social media has seen so many different eras. You've been through so much in your journal entries, but you're just seeing these familiar themes around, oh, I got this new perfume today, or, oh, this new perfume that I just purchased, it's going to define this new era that I'm stepping into, or, oh, I made this essential oil blend that I'm absolutely adoring and it's having these benefits on my life. Like, you just recognize that it is something that you continually talk about in journals, that you post about within your social media. And just as you think about your life altogether, it is something that continually just pulls you back in. It's taken so many different forms and shapes, but it's been there. And you really believe in the power of scent as it relates to drawing back to certain memories, certain eras eras of your life, defining new chapters of your life. You can smell a certain perfume and be brought right back to the era of your life that was your signature scent. And you play with it. You use it to co-create. Whenever you're feeling stuck in life, you create a new essential oil blend, or you purchase a new perfume in order to define, this is who I'm stepping into in body. This is what this next era is going to be about. You've got to smell it before you can feel it, and you got to feel it before you can experience it. And so you're just recognizing this, and it's always been something so potent within your own toolkit. But as you revisit it, you suddenly have this urge that you want to transition your career to something within this industry. It is something that you've been passionate about for so long. And the reason you are staying up late is because you are just trying to hold on to your own time, just rebel in a certain way, because so much of your time in your life is consumed by your job, which is not a passion of yours. And so you reclaim your time by staying up late just to feel like your time is your own. And so as you're staying up late, you get this sudden whoosh of inspiration of something that you want to do within the scent industry altogether. And so you get this urge, this desire, this instinct to change your whole life. It's like 2 a.m., but you suddenly are like, I'm going to start a business in this particular industry. I'm going to see if I can apprentice under a perfumer. I'm going to see if there's some sort of conference that I can go to in order to learn more. I mean, my whole life up to this point has been unintentionally preparing for this. Like, it's so magical when you see the pieces all come together and when you make sense of different parts of your journey. It's so interesting when you realize that not everybody was staying up late with an astrology book until 3 a.m. or not everybody gets so lit up when they're reading about sports stats. Like, our passion is energy, and it's energy that sends us in a certain direction. And we don't always know where that journey is going to take us. But I am of the belief that when you are passionate about something, when you feel energy in a certain direction, that is the strongest green flag from the universe. That is the strongest push of what direction to go in, is following passion, energy, and what ignites you. We're transitioning into Aries season. What ignites you? It may not be perfume and scent like our protagonists, but this is a time to really contemplate what ignites you, what you dream of with the Pisces new moon, and what new things, novel things you're wanting to click into action. You know, not only does the astrological new year begin on the 20th, but the Pisces new moon that we will have on the 18th is making a sextile to Uranus and Taurus. Uranus is the planet of novelty. So yes, with Mercury retrograde, we could be taking a walk down memory lane around my love for perfume. My love for scent is nothing new. I've been passionate about scent since middle school, when I was rocking Love Spell from Victoria's Secret and Japanese Cherry Blossom from Bath and Body Works. And, you know, it's definitely taken different shapes and forms over the years, but it's been a consistent passion of mine. But what's new, because this week is around what's new, is this desire around maybe I can work in this. I don't believe every passion we need to make money from, but it can make it more fun to be making money in something, to be doing what it is that you love and sharing what you love out into the world and getting paid for it. That can't exist. And you're just contemplating this love for scent and perfumery, and you're contemplating also your dissatisfaction with your current work, and you're wondering if there is a way to merge this passion and this problem that you're having within your life. Like, what if your passion could solve the problem? And so this night you get so inspired, and it's a beautiful thing to be inspired. And you see that there is a perfumery conference in another place, and you spontaneously book a ticket to go. And when you go to sleep, it feels like there's electricity running through your veins because you are so excited. Yes, was it a little impulsive? Absolutely. You find out the next morning that you accidentally booked a connecting flight that departed after your first flight landed. So there definitely is a need with Mercury retrograde and then even Mercury stationing, but still clearing the shadow, to double check the details. Venus in Aries going Jupiter can make us a little impulsive and excessive as it relates to our spending without reading the fine print, right? But you're feeling this pulse around this new beginning, and you don't know what exactly is going to be in store. You don't know where in this industry you would fit in. You don't know if you would want to develop your own thing. You don't know if it would be best to work at a perfume counter first, first and learn the ropes that way, or if it would be better to apprentice under someone. Like, you don't know. You're the fool. You know, you're at the beginning of the journey. We're all at the beginning of a journey as the sun transitions into Aries. And a huge part of the Fool card in tarot is that there's a little bit of a delusional, idealistic quality to this card. Like, the individual is about to go off of a cliff. There is a little dog yapping, saying, hey, look before you go. And that's not to say that there is danger ahead. It's just sometimes we get a little lost in the clouds as it relates to a new ideal, a new vision. And it is very special to be in that space, to be at the precipice, to be unsure what this journey has in store for you. It's an exciting place to be. And that is the sort of astrology that we are all navigating this week. So as we transition into our day-by-day analysis, I just want to remind you that I utilize the time zone PDT, Pacific Daylight Time. Please adjust to your local time zone if you are located elsewhere in the world than I am. So many of you are, which just warms my heart. We have people from all over the globe here in the cosmic corner of the internet. It makes me so happy. But make sure that you align the time to where it is that you are on the globe. And just a heads up to set the vibe, since our vibe check of the week is very much around scent, our incense today is honey rose, and it's smelling absolutely delightful. So this is your encouragement, whether you make some flower tea, burn some incense, set the vibe, and let's get into the astrology for Monday, March 16th. Okay, tea update. We've got a couple of petals. It seems the flower is getting ready to blossom. Let's see how it tastes. Okay, not bad. I think it still needs time. And don't we all? Need a little time. So on Monday, March 16th, we start the day with the moon in Aquarius. The moon does transition into Pisces at 4:16 p.m. PDT. And what I want to remind you in stepping into your Monday is that we are in the waning crescent lunar phase as we prepare for Wednesday's new moon. And to have new starts, to have new beginnings, we have to release the endings. And that's what the waning crescent moon is about. It's about clearing space for new beginnings. It's important to know that this week we are not just closing out Pisces season, we are closing out an entire year of experiences. We start the year astrologically when the sun enters Aries. We end it with Pisces. So we are closing out a chapter from March 2025 until now. And Pisces is the final sign of the zodiac. It builds and it layers all of the emotional debris, all of the spiritual debris of what has transpired in your life. And so you can find that there are random waves of grief that surface, or disappointment or emotion, and trusting that it's surfacing for the purpose of being washed away, of being released in order to carve space for this new beginning. So giving yourself permission to feel what is coming up. There also could be symbolic calls that you have to release. You could let go of something, maybe something that you've held on to for sentimental value, but you recognize this is not serving me any longer. It's time to let it go. Memories are stored in the heart, not just in this belonging, and it's feeling the space that opens up. You know, I had this suitcase that was literally falling apart. It quite literally had rips and tears and openings. Like, it was honestly a miracle that I arrived to any of my destination with any of my stuff. Like, I'm sure some little items slipped out of my suitcase. Like, it had been beat up, but I didn't want to get rid of it because that suitcase was with me in so many amazing travels within my life. And my friends for my birthday got me this beautiful new suitcase. I'm so excited for the travels that this suitcase will see. But for some reason, I had the hardest time throwing out the broken one. I was like, but this was the suitcase that I went to Thailand with. This is the suitcase that I plopped down in my bestie's apartment in New York when she first moved there. Like, I was attached to a suitcase even though it was falling apart, and I had this brand new one. Like, sometimes we cling to things even if they are no longer useful, even if it doesn't make sense, we cling to things. And it's important to let go. You know, memories are stored in the heart, not within the bag. And sometimes we cling to old baggage. Literally, in my case, I was literally clinging to old baggage. But the reality of it is that that suitcase couldn't be the suitcase that comes with me to Bali, which, by the way, to my Bali loves, I cannot wait. I'm planning so much magic for the trip, and I cannot wait to connect with so many of you IRL with my new suitcase. You know, my old suitcase couldn't have been what would get me to Bali. It simply couldn't have been. And again, that seems very obvious when we talk about suitcases, but oftentimes we do that. We try to bring old baggage into new eras of our life. We try to bring things that we know are not working and we know is not really serving its function because we're attached to it, because we've had memories with it, because we worry, what if I will need that holy suitcase? Mercury retrograde can make us more nostalgic, hence why in the vibe check, you're revisiting journals and social media. Let me know if anybody else has been doing that as of late, or rewatching old movies, rereading old books and videos like we talked about last week. We can be nostalgic of the past, but it's also knowing your future needs you, with the sun stepping into Aries, and that the suitcase that is taking you to the places of the past will not be what gets you to the next era of your life. And so it's trusting in the power of renewal. It's trusting in the power of letting go. The Aquarius moon will sextile Chiron in Aries at 6:51 a.m. PDT, which sometimes can be healing, to let go of the past with grace and gratitude, to bless the suitcase. Before I released it, I would have donated it, but truly nobody should be traveling with that. I can't imagine how much stuff I've lost that has been jostled out of that suitcase due to all that it's gone through. But before I released it, I thanked it for how it served me, and I let it go with grace and gratitude, and just found that full circle moment of closure with it. And, sometimes the universe gets our attention in a more loud way that something is no longer serving us. And I want to mention that because just before 1 p.m. PDT, the Aquarius moon will square Uranus in Taurus. How this may surface realistically, logically, is that there could be something that happens unexpectedly midday. Emotions could catch you by surprise, come on randomly, leave just as suddenly. You could have random desires, random cravings to go in a certain direction. You can also just feel very restless. Sometimes we want change and we just get kind of sick of ourselves. We're like, how is it that I'm still this unsatisfied with my position at work? How is it that I still am not learning more about this passion that I love so dearly? How is it that I'm still not prioritizing A, B, and C within my life? There just could be sometimes moments where we get very sick of ourselves, and that's kind of the moon square Uranus, so much so that it's time for change. Sometimes you get sick of hearing yourself complain about something. Sometimes you get sick of feeling a certain way. Sometimes you get sick of a certain situation where it's like so many people can say, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this, but it takes that moment where suddenly you decide that you're done with it. And that comes on at a different point for everyone. Aquarius moon, Uranus and Taurus, these are two fixed signs. So sometimes we stubbornly and rigidly hold on to things that are not serving us till the very end. Like when I say I held on to that suitcase to the bitter end, some would have argued the bitter end should have been 3 or 4 years ago. Sometimes things need to get to a certain point where it's time for us to make that decision. If you've ever had a friend where they're with someone that just treats them awfully and you're like, you need to leave, you need to leave, you need to leave. Everybody has a different breaking point. Everybody has a different point where they decide no more. And it's different for everyone. And you as a friend could say, you deserve better. Or my friend said to me, you really should get a new suitcase. But the point in which we're time to release it is personal. My friends did accelerate that journey by giving me the suitcase. But still, even with the new suitcase, I still was looking at the old one. We all get sick of something at a certain point, so much so that we are ready for change. This is squaring Uranus, the new moon on Wednesday, sextile is Uranus. Uranus is about change. So sometimes we just decide that we want to change our life. Sometimes we decide that we're sick of something. Sometimes we decide that we're over something. And sometimes the universe makes it apparent to us. Sometimes we lose something in the holy suitcase that makes it clear, like, no, my favorite earrings, like I need a new suitcase, or something happens within our life that makes it clear that it's time. The universe sometimes whispers and it sometimes shouts in order to get our attention. And it's powerful to view it that way. So focus may be a little bit of a challenge. We tend to feel a little bit more drained, tired, depleted, emotional in the waning crescent moon phase. The moon enters Pisces at 4:16 p.m. PDT, which is an emotional, dreamy, intuitive influence. On Tuesday, March 17th, the moon is in Pisces all day long. So striving to stay down here on planet Earth may feel like it's a full-time job. At this time, you could feel yourself getting swept away, whether it's around revisiting the past. If you've ever crept on yourself and looked far on your social media, sometimes it's a deep dive. Sometimes you're creeping on yourself in 2017. You're like, I've lived a lot of different lives. Sometimes you have to remind yourself of your own lore. We just forget about certain eras. But even if it's not getting caught up in the past or your social media, there just could be an energy around getting really lost in your own dreamland, lost in your own emotions, and lost in the abyss. This is a very sleepy, dreamy time of year. And so you can find yourself sort of trailing off mid-sentence or staring out the window at work with a faraway look in your eye. And you can also feel yourself getting swept by emotion or even waves around, I don't know what I'm doing. It's completely natural to feel a little lost right now, or like, I don't know what's going on. We talked a lot about that last week. Make sure to check out last week's Magic Monday to get the scoop on that. That's completely natural. And sometimes when we know that new beginnings are on the horizon, it gives us permission where it's like, I don't need to decide right now. Mercury is retrograde. I don't need to know it all right now. I just need to pay attention to where my intuition is guiding me and where it is that the universe is bringing certain things to my attention. Because sometimes those random impulses that we get where it's like, I want to creep on my Instagram back to 2017, or I want to deep dive on this certain topic. Sometimes spirit is bringing in certain information through that, where it's not so random after all. It was meant to reveal to you, look, you've had this consistent passion for years and years and years, and that's necessary for you to remember to inspire this next era. Pisces energy asks us to interact with life in a more spiritual, symbolic way and ask yourself, like, why is this being brought into my reality today? Like, what is the message of this? Paying attention and allowing yourself to be led, allowing yourself to be guided, allow yourself to be open. Sometimes we panic during Pisces season, feeling like we have to have it all figured out and we burn all our energy. Your job is to just allow yourself to be carried by inspiration, by intuition. The moon aligns with Mercury at 8:47 a.m. PDT. So definitely pay attention to what messages come in. You also could have a message for somebody else. And this doesn't even need to show up in some grandiose way. This could just be like thinking about your friend and having a certain idea around, oh, you should do this. Have you considered doing this? And just sharing it with them, or just feeling a random impulse to tell a stranger that they look pretty today. Like sometimes spirit is working through us via our words, and it's important not to overthink it and to answer the call. If we feel a certain nudge, especially with the moon aligning with Mars at 1:47 p.m. PDT, pay attention to what you feel inspired to say, what you feel inspired to do today. Pay attention to what you receive. You could receive random messages of your friends saying, hey, have you ever started about going into perfumery? Or you get a certain message from a friend around, hey, what do you think would be a good scent for me? Like that's another way to tell where the universe is guiding you, is to pay attention to what questions people ask you a lot, or what do people come to you seeking advice on. Sometimes that can be indicative of where it is that you can be of service in some sort of way, or where the universe is wanting you to go. My dad is a musician, and he's been really wanting over the past couple of years to more deeply prioritize songwriting. And there has been all of this exciting momentum around his music as of late. And it's been fascinating because within the last month, more people have asked him to teach them guitar than have asked him in like the last decade. And it's not that he is a guitar teacher, just all of a sudden the universe has been sending out all these people in various contexts who are asking, could you teach me guitar? Could you teach me a couple of things? And it's really been just invigorating his love for playing. And there's been so much momentum where one of his old bands are getting together. They're recording an EP. They've got a show lined up. All of a sudden, there's just all this momentum around music. And this is coming after, he's had years of feeling like he was in a little bit of a writer's block, feeling not as inspired, not having the time to play guitar, to write music. And then all of a sudden, there's just such a push in that direction. And so it's also honoring, if your friends come to you and they want to learn how to play guitar, or you're just noticing your friends always come to you for fashion advice or things like that. It's really honoring. What is the universe trying to say here? What if there is a message in this? What if nothing is random, is really an ask today. And the Pisces moon will trine Jupiter in Cancer at 7:18 p.m. PDT. Keep in mind, just as we talked about yesterday, we're in the waning crescent moon phase, which is around letting go of emotions that are no longer serving us, baggage that's no longer serving us, things that are no longer serving us, it's allowing those things to be swept away and feeling the space that opens up. Sometimes it's literal, where releasing my old suitcase did open up space in my closet for the new one. But sometimes you just feel it soulfully and spiritually when you just let something go, when you recognize this is not mine to carry, or this is not something I'm bringing with me in this new year. This is the end of the year. Astrologically speaking, this is the final waning crescent moon that we will have in the astrological year from March 2025 to March 2026. So if there is anything that you are not wanting to take with you into the year, this is the time to let it go and feel the release. Sometimes we have certain cathartic experiences, writing a burn letter on a certain situation, or doing a cord cutting ceremony, or releasing certain belongings attached to an era of our life. But you feel weirdly giddy after a lot of times. You feel at least lighter. Like, even if you're not literally doing a cord cutting ceremony or anything like that, even if you just cry it out, a lot of times you do feel lighter after. It is a release. And so it's opening up space. And so there can be a call today to do just that, as well as you could just feel very protected and guided from the universe. The universe works in mysterious ways, and sometimes the most bizarre things transpire that make it clear that the universe is supporting you, guiding you, protecting you on every step. Because if there is any disappointment that you think about from March 2025 to March 2026, anything that you wanted to work out but didn't, it's coding that and categorizing that as protection. It's categorizing it as something that was not meant to be in order to open up space for what is. On Wednesday, your horoscope for Wednesday, March 18th, happy new moon in Pisces. The new moon exacts at 6:08 p.m. PDT, and you have the full cosmic permission slip to manifest, to intention set. This lunation does mark the exit officially from eclipse season, because of course the final eclipse was on March 3rd, 2026, and the effects from eclipses continue to reverberate out in 6 months' time. So it's not saying like, okay, Virgo lunar eclipse story ended, Aquarius solar eclipse story ended, nothing of that nature. But in terms of like the eclipse season intensity, that is dissipating, as well as the typical cosmic caution we give around eclipses not to manifest or not to force things, like that is lifting with this Pisces new moon. And so by all means, my love, plant seeds, do rituals, intention set, call in, dream new dreams. There's an interesting story with this lunation where, yes, it's a Pisces new moon. Pisces is the sign that bridges this physical reality and what it is that we dream up. And so this particular new moon is a really optimal time to pluck things from your dreams and bring them into reality, to walk into that version of yourself. Every sign in astrology governs a different part of the body, and Pisces governs the feet, because there is a certain inside out energy with Pisces energy around I think, therefore I am, or I envision and I design, and therefore I step in that direction. It is very connected to essentially manifestation. And it's said, if you're ever feeling stuck in life, to purchase a pair of shoes and to contemplate the version of yourself that you're wanting to step into, that you're wanting to embody, and really intention set with the shoes. Because the shoes are just a pair of shoes. No pair of shoes is going to change your life. Although I do have some shoes that I'm like, okay, that did kind of low-key change my life. Like these boots did low-key change my life. I love those boots. But outside of that, if we're ever feeling stuck, to find shoes that represent the version of ourselves we're wanting to step into. And then your work is to not just wear the shoes, but own the shoes, embody the shoes. Think about, how does that version of myself step into the room? What are the steps that they take towards their visions? It's halfway what it is that we dream and halfway what it is that we step into. And so it can be supportive to get a different pair of shoes. We have Venus squaring Jupiter today, so we are a little spendy. We'll get into that in a moment, but it's beyond that. Doesn't need to be shoes. Anything that supports you in stepping into the next version of yourself. The time for action is coming with the sun entering Aries. Right now is about envisioning and getting very clear on who it is that you want to be. This particular lunation conjoins Neptune and Saturn, albeit through a wider conjunction and an out of sign conjunction. The new moon is in Pisces, Saturn and Neptune are in the early degrees of Aries. And so conjunctions bridge the gaps, they fuse together. And so there's synergy around the different sort of visions that we are calling in with the Pisces new moon, and the version of ourselves, being that Neptune and Saturn are in the sign of identity, the version of ourselves that we would step into in order to be that. buying a pair of shoes because we feel stuck and thinking this is the version of myself who walks into this next era confidently. This is the version of myself who's the business person. This is the version of myself who gets up at 6 a.m. every single day. It's like not just tapping into what you want in the vibe check, this new career in the perfume industry, wherever that may lead you. It's tapping into the version of yourself that you're stepping into. What would it look like for me to pursue a life of passion? What would it look like for me to be someone who initiates, who doesn't just accept what life throws their way, but makes things happen for themselves? I was sitting here spiraling because I couldn't think of the word that I wanted to say, which is very Mercury retrograde in Pisces. But the word is quantrelle. Quantrelle, a woman who emphasizes a life of passion. So wanting to embody our inner quantrelles. I hope I'm saying that right. Voiceover Haley here to pop in and illuminate some details that recording Haley did not quite communicate. Mercury may be stationing direct in 2 days' time, but at the time of filming and at the time of editing, Mercury is still very much retrograde in Pisces. And the astrologer that you are currently listening to is very much ruled by Mercury. So very sensitive to what Mercury is up to. And with Mercury retrograde in Pisces, sometimes we could be catching a vibe, feeling a vibe, and not very clear in expressing the reasoning for the vibe or why the conversation is going where it's going. So I just want to express that the word that I have just defined, quantrelle, it was initially brought into my sphere because it was on the front cover of an old journal of mine. And it was driving me crazy because I was sitting in the cosmic corner of the internet, racking my brain around what is that word that means someone who cultivates a life of passion. Like that's really something I was tapping into with this Pisces new moon, but I could not think of the word. So much so that I stopped recording, went to my memory box and dug out this very journal that if you are watching visually, you'll see within my hands, just to be reminded of the word. But then in the process of having the journal in my hands, then I kind of thumbed through it a little bit. And that's what I'm going to talk about here. But I just want to make it clear why I transitioned into talking about this journal from talking about that word. Okay, back to the magic. And it's so interesting because clearly this journal has seen better days. It's very beat up. This journal was given to me from a boss at my 9 to 5. And it's just interesting flipping through it. I'm not going to get too lost in sauce because literally Alex has already had to edit out me flipping through it. But it's just so fascinating, just the era of my life that I wrote in that particular journal. And again, it just came to my mind's eye when I was just talking about envisioning the version of yourself who's a quantrelle, if that's what it is, or the version of yourself that is an innovator and a creator. And it's interesting glancing through that because I did write a lot of my dreams. That was a journal that I had in 2016, 2017. And I wrote a lot of my dreams in the passages that I just read. I was really hung up on moving to New York, which is not how the cookie crumbled. But that's okay because when I read what I was really after, like New York represented a timeline or a life where I could work in something that I love to do and feel excited to do it every day, which is the case. The city is different. The industry that I thought I was going to work in is different than what I see in those pages. But I wanted a passionate life and I'm living a passionate life. And so it's knowing that even within the vibe check, the road may take you in places that you may not have foreseen. Like you may not totally know what is to come, but your passion and what lights you up will guide the way, will guide the pathway. And it's allowing yourself to surrender to the mystery of the universe. And so it's honoring that, giving yourself permission to be surprised. The new moon sextiles Uranus. So it's getting clear on how you want to show up around, I want to be creative. I want to step into my boss era. I want to step into my leadership era. I want to take more time to pursue my creativity. It's being firm on how it is that you want to show up and how it is that you want to feel, right, with the energy of Pisces moon, but being open to the details. You can be passionate and alive and creative in New York. You can be passionate and creative and alive in San Diego. Like sometimes the details of this 3D matrix are less important than how it is that we want to feel, how it is that we want to show up, how it is that we want to be of service. So it's allowing yourself to be open, certain on how you want to feel, certain on who you want to be, but open to the circumstances that are in your highest and best good and the other individual's highest and best good. With the Pisces new moon, keep in mind Mercury is retrograde, so we could be looking at old journals, we could be reflecting on the past, but with the Pisces new moon, it's new visions, new ideas, new dreams that we're giving ourselves permission to dream. With this new moon conjoining Neptune and Saturn and Aries. Aries is very associated with courage. courage. So giving ourselves permission to be courageous, giving ourselves permission to dream big, giving ourselves permission to be big, to step into versions of ourselves that challenge the status quo, that challenge what other people expect from us, that challenge even what we think we're capable of. And with the new moon sextile Uranus, it could be something that's been building. You know, Uranus is in its final little push through Taurus. This is a journey that has been taking place since 2018. So maybe there's been something that you've consistently dreamt of. You read in old journals that you've dreamt of. You revisit in your old favorite movies that you've dreamt of. And maybe it's giving yourself permission now to plant it into being in a brand new way. So really supportive new moon to intention set, to call in, to ask if the universe was a genie and I had a wish, like what would I wish for? You know, when it comes to a new moon and the sign of the fish, the new moon may grant a wish. And with the sextile Uranus, it can be unusual. It can be bold with the alignment to Neptune and Saturn and Aries. And it will require effort, you know, with the alignment to Saturn. Within the vibe check, our protagonist is going to the conference. You know, they're open to apprentice. They're open to get a job at a perfume counter. You know, sometimes we have to pay our dues in a certain way, even if the universe is orchestrating and aligning ideal circumstances to us. Sometimes we have to be open to do the work in order to bring our dreams to reality. With the Neptune alignment there, we have to invest energy and sometimes money. At 9:09 a.m. PDT, Venus in Aries will square Jupiter in Cancer. So yes, allow yourself to get excited, you know, pursuing your passions and igniting your desires and tuning into what feels fun in this experience, what gives you energy rather than drains it or depletes it. That can tell you quite a bit as well. There's a reason you continually come back to perfume, come back to scent. This gives you energy. You know, with Mars and Pisces, we are all being asked to tune into what gives us energy and what depletes it. And so yes, it's helpful to go in the direction of where you feel invigorated and inspired. There just could be a little bit of an excessive vibe on Wednesday. Like just because you've gotten a certain download or an idea that you want to start a certain company doesn't mean you need to go online and order $2,000 of product right now. Mercury is still retrograde, like do not get carried away. I know I just said that it can be helpful to buy a pair of shoes, but make sure it's within budget. You know, Venus and Aries square Jupiter in Cancer can be us getting hooked to the dopamine surge of swiping our credit card or buying something. You know, it is a high, and Venus and Aries is very drawn to the beginnings of things where it can feel like we're doing something because we're investing in the product, we're investing in the course, we're putting our money, you know, where our dreams are, right? And it can feel like we're doing something, which we are. But sometimes because we get a brain chemical payoff just from buying something, sometimes we think, okay, the work is done. Step one is done. When the work is showing up, learning your craft, honing your passion, what have you, purchasing things is just a part of it. And even if you're not, you know, buying products for your next business or buying something for the next season of life that you're moving into, this just can be a time that we are a little bit more overly idealistic as it relates to our finances. There can be an energy around being really spendy, being very impulsive, seeing something and thinking that we've got to have it right away. And, you know, a lot of purchases are emotional purchases, right? And especially with the Pisces new moon today, there can be an energy around this scarf represents the new era that I'm stepping into. It represents the new me that I'm embodying, right? And it's, yeah, sometimes fun to play with items that way, like assigning the intention to your shoes and assigning the intention to the scarf. Like it can be helpful to play with things that way, especially with the new moon sextile Uranus and Taurus, but you don't need the thing. The intention is the core part. The physical item is just a reminder of that and helps it really embody it. But really the work is all your own. The work is in the dreaming of it. And also with love, we can be a little hasty at this time. You know, it's special when you get ignited by someone, when you get excited by something, and there can be an energy to want to go all in or propose a spontaneous vacay away from the world. You know, keep in mind, we're in Pisces season, so we're idealizing and romanticizing everything. And with Venus and Aries, when we are excited, when we are ignited, we could just have this desire where we want to go on the trip and do all of the things, which again, it's fun to feel passionate and excited, but we're just not being the most discerning at this time. I mean, who could be when all of those chemicals are rushing through your brain? So if you are like new and talking to someone, there just could be this energy around getting a little swept away. Venus and Aries is a passionate influence, but it is very drawn to the beginnings of things. And so there can be an energy around confusing the excitement of getting to know someone new with this is your soulmate that you need to run away and elope with. And with Venus and Aries squaring Jupiter, there also could just be an energy around getting excited by the idea of someone new, going on a date with someone new, and not being as discerning about certain matters. The new moon lands at 28 degrees Pisces, so a very late degree of Pisces. So you'll want to see which house that activates within your chart to see where these dreamy yet courageous new beginnings are forming within your chart. And because the moon is at such a late degree of Pisces, the moon will enter Aries at 9:03 p.m. PDT, which is supportive around taking action towards our dreams, being authentic, being courageous. On Thursday, March 19th, the moon is in Aries all day long, and the sun is positioned at the anaretic degree of Pisces, the 29th degree, which is a loaded degree for any sign, but particularly Pisces is very dense. It's very soggy, I like to think of it, because it is the final degree of the zodiac. It builds upon every degree that came before. It is the last degree of the last sign of the zodiac, and we are closing out a year to initiate a new year tomorrow. And so with the sun at the 29th degree of Pisces, there can be a sensation of urgency around certain emotions that you're feeling, or just an urgency in general to bring your dreams into action, you know, fresh off the heels of yesterday's new moon in Pisces. And there also can just be urgent emotions that are surfacing. You could be feeling your stuff and everybody else's stuff. You could be ready for some more fire in the cosmos. Let me know how your Pisces season was this year. I swear, Pisces season, particularly towards the end of it, I tend to see a lot of people in the collective like, oh, get me into Aries season. This is so emotional. This is so lethargic. So tomorrow does initiate us into Aries season, which is a little bit more action-oriented, assertive, instinctive, fun, playful. Pisces energy can be drowning in emotion sometimes and lost in fantasy sometimes. So if you have been kind of navigating a like, what is real vibe with Pisces season, the sun entering Aries should give a kick in the butt to go out and make things really happen within real reality. But with the sun at the anaretic degree of Pisces and the moon in Aries, Venus in Aries squaring Jupiter yesterday, my encouragement would be mindful not to be too idealistic at this time or to bite off more than we can chew. Mercury does station direct tomorrow, and we tend to really feel planets when they shift. And so when it comes to Mercury station direct, you can be feeling it quite a bit as it relates to scheduling difficulties and rescheduling. You definitely feel that. And sometimes with this urgent energy at the 29th degree, there can be this energy around, I need to do something now. I'm sick of this reality. I need to go all in on my dreams, on my desires. And like I highlighted, there is forward momentum. This is a time to bring things into action. I would just say, don't feel like you have to do things in excess, like buy $5,000 of product for the new business that you're starting, or commit to spend the rest of your life with someone that you just met. The reality is we're not seeing things too terribly clearly at this time. So even though we've got this urgent energy at the 29th degree, this impatient energy of Aries, slow and steady. You know, sometimes the flower needs some time to bloom. Even though this is not fully giving what I thought it was going to give, I'm still going to be patient with it. And so our lunar story today, the moon aligns with Neptune at midnight and then Saturn at 3:51 a.m. PDT. So you could have interesting dreams with the alignment to Neptune, and then a little bit of a blah sensation with the energy of Saturn. You know, sometimes we get super excited by something, ignited by something, and then overwhelmed. It's like you're so excited, you find the perfume conference and you're all booked in to go, and then you're like, oh, and I have to take time off work, and oh, I got to plan accommodations. Like sometimes the details make things a little heavy. Things cannot just operate within the spark, the initiation of the new idea. There is sometimes hard work that's necessary with Saturn, or details, which we're just not so keen on at this particular time with Mercury retrograde. So you could wake up to an email that makes you feel a little heavy. You could feel a little discouraged by something, a little like, why try? But the key right now is your bounce back game needs to be on point with Aries energy. You need to shoot your shot. You need to dream your dream, and you need to bounce back if there are deterrence from that. Like, your bounce back game needs to be on point at a time such as this, with astrology such as this, especially since the Aries moon will sextile Pluto in the morning, which is this energy around regeneration, bouncing back, beginning again, trying again. So you could wake up to something that just puts you in a little bit of an off mood, a little bit of why try. You worked hard on something, it didn't perform maybe the way that you wanted it to, or maybe you put out a certain offer and it got rejected. But with the energy of Aries moon sextile Pluto, it's not backing down from novel opportunities to shoot your shot again, put out other offers, whatever that may be. The Aries moon does square Jupiter. It builds to happen later in the night, and Jupiter expands whatever it touches. With moon energy, it could really expand your emotions. This is adding on to the reality that we are in the final day of Pisces season, which can be very dense. It could be very intense. It could be very emotional. We're feeling everything deeply. And the encouragement with Aries moon is to feel it and to let it go. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. So yes, it does give this energy of immediacy and sometimes very reactive, which I would be mindful of. Wait for all of the details to surface with Mercury Direct if there is something that ignites you, frustrates you, infuriates you. But the beauty of Aries moon is that there is an ability to let things go. A lot of times if you just let the emotion pass through you, it does go away. Or if you do give a moment to scream into a pillow, or just to have a moment where you're like outwardly frustrated, it leaves. It's not holding on to the emotion too terribly deep. It's much like the ducks. I think it's ducks. Ducks like shake all of their feathers after a fight, and that gets all of that stress out of their body. We have to have things that help us not hold on to things, because the more that we hold on to, the more that we internalize, then we start to think that it is us. And the reality is we hold on to a lot that's not ours. It's important to feel certain things and let them go, let it pass through, and come back to the purity, the essence of your soul, and to have things that relieve stress, to have things that help you in processing it, and just to be honest about what you're feeling. That's the Aries moon energy too. It's about very much being honest. So just allowing yourself to accept, yeah, I'm feeling some type of way about A, B, and C. And sometimes acknowledging it rather than pushing it down, acting like it doesn't exist, create the pathway where you're able to cope, where you're able to navigate, where you're able to regulate yourself and move forward. The sun moves into Aries, a new year is beginning, new starts are initiating. So there could be a need for emotional honesty around this past chapter, as well as how it is that you're feeling about it. And knowing as the seasons change, emotions fluctuate, all things pass. On Friday, March 20th, today is quite a day. Today is the day of all days, one could say. And I want to start your horoscope today by wishing you a happy new year. Yes, the sun entering Aries does ignite and initiate a brand new cycle for each and every one of us. And it's giving yourself permission to begin again, just as the sun is. It's giving yourself permission to spring forward into a new identity, into new dreams. We'll talk more on that with the Neptune Cazimi over the weekend. And it's just believing in the power of new beginnings, that the trees can drop off all of their leaves and grow it again, that the flowers can bloom. Spring does speak to renewal and hope and new beginnings. Sometimes you just need to decide that it's over for everyone, that you are stepping into your most emboldened, your most courageous era ever. Sometimes you just have to decide that you really are that bee, and to step into that bee behavior. Sometimes we're down bad. Yesterday with the sun at the 29th degree of Pisces, could have been feeling everything intensely. And sometimes you just wake up and you remember who you are. And you're like, what was that about? Anyways, back to business, right? And business is progressing. Mercury stations direct at 12:33 p.m. PDT. And so your Mercury retrograde headaches of technical difficulties and rescheduling and date mix-ups, so many of those, this Mercury retrograde, those days are behind you. But take it easy. Don't feel like you have to send all of the important documents and make all of the decisions just because Mercury is direct. Give Mercury some time to clear its post-retrograde shadow. Give Mercury some time to go to other signs where it's a little bit more comfortable, where it's a little bit more dignified. Mercury's not exactly thriving, but it's thriving a little bit more. Little improvements. And you should find that some of the technical difficulties, some of the miscommunications begin to subside from this point onward. And Mercury direct does flip the direction. You know, when Mercury is retrograde, it's a little bit more passive. It's a little bit more inward. It's a little bit more concerned with the past. And now with Mercury direct, it's a little bit more active. It's a little bit more external. It's a little bit more concerned about the future. And so you can find that you have no interest in reading your old journals. It's time to write some new journals. You have no interest in the old memories. It's time to make some new memories. Again, it's special to acknowledge the past seasons of our life and the journals that we had amidst it and the suitcases that we had amidst it and the photos that we taken, but there's nothing new for you there. And Aries season is all about the new. And so you get to a point in time when you just get bored of the same old stories. You get bored rehashing the same stories and the same memories. And it's time for something different. It's time to step into different sides of yourself. You know, that's a key part of the vibe check where this has always been part of you, but you're giving yourself permission for you to fully embody it. Like there's a reason why your friends seek your advice as it relates to perfume recommendations. You've always been passionate about it, but now you're starting to step into, oh no, this is my identity. This is something that I am good at and I'm going in that direction. And just because it's the job that I have does not mean that I need to acquiesce and just take what life gives me. Like Aries season is about going out and make things happen for myself and remember who I am. Like I said, we all forget sometimes. It's okay. Sometimes you forget who you are and then you remember. So this is snapback season. This is bounce back season. This is remember who you are season. Voiceover Haley here, back for a very important reason, and that is to wish a happy birthday to all of the beautiful Aries suns who are stepping into their solar return season. Aries, we just adore you for your courage, for your tenacity, for your initiative, for you reminding the collective to ask for what it is that we want, to go after what it is that we want, to make things happen for ourselves and by ourselves often. Aries, thank you for owning the fullness of who it is that you are and reminding each and every one of us to do the same. Thank you for emboldening the path that is less traveled, or even the path that is not traveled yet. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac for a reason. Thank you for encouraging each and every one of us to step into our courage, to yes, seek out and conquer new challenges, but also just the courage to be authentically ourselves. Thank you. I hope you have the most magical, beautiful birthday season, and back to the magic. I also just want to wish you all a happy International Astrology Day to all of my fellow astro lovers. You know, it's special to have things that ignite you. It's special to have things that excite you, whatever that may be, whether that is perfume, whether that is art, whether that is astrology. I would imagine for many of us here in the cosmic corner of the internet, astrology in big and small ways ignites us. And it's special to have things that we're excited by, and it's special to have a community that we could be excited about it with. So I'm wishing you all a wonderful International Astrology Day. I'm wishing you all a happy new year. I'm wishing you all a happy spring or happy fall, dependent on which hemisphere you are tuning in from. For a majority of your Friday, the moon is in Aries. It does dip into Taurus shortly before midnight, but for most of the day, we've got an Aries moon. The Aries moon does align with Venus at 2:23 a.m. PDT. Friday is Venus Day. Venus is not too terribly comfortable in Aries, but it can be very helpful around initiating circumstances around what we love, building a life around our passions, building a life around our pleasures. And with the energy of Aries, sometimes we have to make things happen in order to do that. You know, not everything in life is going to be handed to us. We can appreciate what life brings our way while also initiating the circumstances that we would like. You know, it's a co-creation, and not everything in life will be handed to us. We could do all of the manifestation, and we should this week with the Pisces New Moon, but there will be certain things that we've got to make happen for ourselves. And with the energy of Aries Moon and Aries Venus, there can be an energy around making things happen in order to live the good life or to enjoy what it is that you do daily, or to even find the beauty within your daily environment. You know, all this Aries energy sometimes speeds past things or does things things very quickly. And so it may be helpful today to make a conscious effort around slow down. You know, Mercury is stationing. And sometimes when Mercury is like stopping in its tracks to switch directions, we can feel like our mind is at a standstill. So when we're rushing past things, we might be glossing over certain details. With Venus Moon, this is just an ask to really like strive to slow down, really get ready, really make your breakfast. Yes, aspects of life will be boring sometimes, but find aspects of it that make it a little bit more fun or enjoyable. And with Moon Chiron at 3:23 p.m. PDT, while there's new beginnings in the air and forward momentum in the air, there can also be moments of self-doubt, doubting yourself, questioning yourself, not feeling good enough, not feeling capable enough, which again is where the bounce back game needs to be lethal. And then the moon enters its exaltation of Taurus just before midnight. So how special is that? The sun is now exalted in Aries and the moon is now exalted in Taurus. And essentially when planets are positioned well, they have access to all of their resources, essentially. So we have a lot of solar energy right now with the sun stepping into Aries. This is its position of exaltation because sun is around ego and identity and life force energy, which Aries has in spades. And moon is around our inner landscape and self-soothing and nourishment, which is plentiful and abundant in the territory of Taurus. So the sun and the moon are in positions where they have all of their resources available. And so it is a time to be proud, to be you, to be authentic, and how it is that you shine and show up and create, to boldly march into new seasons of your life while nurturing the now would be the encouragement with the Taurus moon, indulging in what is alive currently, remembering to fuel your body, to nourish yourself, to ground down. We've got a lot of solar energy and lunar energy to work with this weekend. On Saturday, March 21st at 5:01 p.m. PDT, Mars in Pisces will trine Jupiter in Cancer. And while this is a lucky influence, it's important to note we are now in Aries season, and this is a Mars aspect. This is not the sort of luck that finds us when we are just chilling. This is the sort of luck where we go out and we make our own luck. We shoot our shot. We grab hold of certain opportunities. I saw a quote the other day that it said, opportunities dance over to those who are already on the dance floor. You have to put yourself in the pathway for magical, lucky things to happen for you. This is not the sort of influence where if you just stay inside all day, you might be like Haley Comet, there was no luck to be found because you didn't go find it. This is an energy to go find some luck, and you will, but you got to shoot your shot. You got to initiate. You got to assert yourself, and you got to feel when it's right. You know, it's not forcing. Mars is in Pisces. If the vibe's not there, the vibe's not there. You will feel intuitively magnetized to take action when it's time. Like sometimes it's not time, it's not time, it's not time, and then suddenly it's time. And you can't even explain it, but you will know when it's time to go, when it's time to pitch yourself, when it's time to network, when it's time to say yes to that particular date. You will know. And it's trusting that where it is that you feel inclined to take action, where it is that you feel inclined to resist. Sometimes you just feel magnetized to a certain place, to a certain location, and you can't explain why. Or you feel magnetized to not be in a certain place. You know, I told this story in my Virgo lunar eclipse video, but I just want to share it here because it's very apt for this energy. I had this day, I was meant to go to dinner with someone, and I can't explain it, but everything in my system did not want to go to dinner. And it's so strange because the restaurant is one of our favorite restaurants. Like, who doesn't want to go to dinner? But literally anything else sounded more enticing at that particular moment. Like I would have rather gone to the dentist than gone to this restaurant. And it was so weird. I was like, I don't know why, but I don't want to go. And like everything within me, the person I was meant to go with was kind of having a bad day. So I want to cheer them up, but I was like, I got to stay true to myself. You know, we all do. It's Aries season. Okay. You got to be true to you. And I was like, I maybe in past seasons of my life would have just pushed down how I felt and just muscled through because I felt like this other person was depending on me. But I was honest. I was like, I don't know why, but I am just not feeling enticed. Like I just don't want to go to this restaurant. And so this person is so kind and so understanding. And so they were going to go to the restaurant to hang out in a while. They just wanted to kind of like get out of the house. And so they're going to go to the restaurant, grab a drink, and then bring back takeout so we could eat here and still spend quality time. So they got what they needed, which was some time out in this world. And I got what I needed, which for some reason I didn't understand at the time was not that restaurant. And I was true to myself. You know, I was honest. And I think that's important with Aries season. And then it all made sense. While this person was walking to the restaurant, one of their besties they hadn't seen in so long, who lives in a different sector but just happened to be in the neighborhood running some sort of test, honked, pulled over, and then the two of them got to connect, and that person didn't have any plans. So they ended up grabbing a drink together, hanging out, got brought back takeout. That's what was meant to be. You know, they needed that time. That's why like the universe was like putting all of this energy in me, like, no, I don't want to go. And it didn't make sense. But I trusted it because I've cultivated so much deep trust in my intuition, because it's led me to every magic moment I've ever experienced is trusting my intuition. So I trust it, whether it's a go or whether it's a stop. And that was a stop. But they had such a beautiful evening, and I had such a beautiful evening. My evening was opened up, and I really needed that. Like, I really genuinely needed some alone time at that time. I needed to take a bath. I needed to moodle and contemplate. So the universe is constantly orchestrating things, and sometimes we get in our head and we overthink it, you know, around, well, I was meant to go to the restaurant. I need to go. I need to push through this discomfort. And sometimes you just need to honor it's not where my energy is moving. You know, sometimes we just feel drawn in certain directions and repelled in other directions. And that's what leads us to the magic moments, to the synchronicity, to the alignment of it all and how everything comes together. And so it's trusting in that. I would definitely say today could be a very helpful day to move your body, get connected to your soul by moving your body. There's such a strong connection, especially with Aries season. This is a time to feel strong, to feel empowered. And with Mars trining Jupiter, sometimes moving your body in different ways opens up different pockets of energy within your life. It sometimes just brings in this overall energy of can-do spirit. You know, when we go to a workout class, we consciously challenge ourselves, and we consciously start to view all sorts of challenges, even outside of physical ones. We start to view it as something that is helpful. We start to view it as something not to fear. We start to see it as an opportunity to conquer said challenges, not back down from them, which is key with Aries season. So shoot your shot, follow your energy today. I will say, while we have this can-do energy, enthusiastic, energized, the morning time may feel a little rough. The Taurus moon squares Pluto, so you could be feeling uncomfortable, not secure, fearful, paranoid, unsure of what's to come. The Taurus moon sextiling Mercury in Pisces at 1:46 p.m. PDT asks you to just talk through what you're feeling and validate what you're feeling. Like, oftentimes our emotions just want to be validated, where they can like knock at the door and we could just push them down around, you shouldn't feel this way. But sometimes if you just acknowledge, hey, you're here and you exist, a lot of times they will leave. You know, emotions are like people, and that sometimes, you know, they just want to be seen. They just want to be acknowledged. Nobody likes to be ignored. So sometimes if you're just pushing down the fear or the anxiety, sometimes just naming it around, I feel scared. I feel scared of starting this new career in perfumes. I feel scared of leaving the comfort of this particular job. I feel tethered to security. You know, Taurus moon is deeply about security, but with the square to Pluto, there could be either fear around losing security or what it is that you're sacrificing in the name of security could be here. You know, sometimes when you're feeling drawn in a different direction, there's that moment of anxiety around, will I be able to replicate my income if I step into a different industry or if I do something different? You'll know when it's time. I've shared this before, but in the final year of working at the 9-to-5, where my boss gave me this, and this journal chronicles all of those 9-to-5 days, because 2016, 2017 is when I was working there. I knew I was craving something different. I knew my life was taking me in a different direction, and I had so much anxiety around when will it be time and will I make enough? And one day you'll know. And I wish I could go back and tell myself, just relax, just be there now, enjoy the sweetness of this era and of this job. The time will come. Like, you'll know when it's time to take flight. You know when it's time to shoot your shot. Because truly, it was so strange. One day I just knew, and I got this random surge of courage to quit my job. And afterward, I was like, what the heck did I just do? But it just felt right. And it's like, when you're in that anxiety, when you're in that overthinking, it's like not right. And my encouragement, if anybody is in that state, is to save as much as possible, build anything that you're striving to do on the side, learn about what you want to do on the side, and you'll know when it's time to take flight. You'll know when it's time to soar. But all in all, on Saturday with the Taurus moon, really great day to be in nature. That could calm any anxiety with the square to Pluto. Be able to listen to your intuition with the Taurus moon sextiling Mercury. You know, sometimes we have to lose ourselves a little bit with the Neptune Cazimi building to exact tomorrow morning, to lose ourselves in this art showing in nature, in this movie. Sometimes we lose ourselves in order to find ourselves again. On Sunday, March 22nd at 4:14 a.m. PDT, we have Sun conjunct Neptune, also known as the Neptune cazimi. And when it comes to strong Neptune energy, it can be a little delusional, like we talked about, and maybe even delusional as it relates to a new beginning, a new start. You know, if all of us knew the nitty-gritty of everything, we likely wouldn't go into it. Because we tend to go into new eras of our life or new endeavors or new undertakings with a little bit of that fool mentality. You know, the journey will have twists and turns, right? The edge of the cliff will have its own challenges. And if we knew all of that, we might not go on the journey to begin with. So sometimes it's helpful to have our head in the clouds or to be idealistic with what it is that we're stepping into and allow ourselves to be surprised. And so with the Neptune energy, yes, you might be a little idealistic, a little lost in the clouds, but that isn't necessarily a bad thing. I would just say ground down at this time and envision, dream of what could be, but who you could be. This is in the sign Aries, the sign of identity. So it's more than just envisioning a career in this new industry. It's envisioning you as a perfumer, if that's the terminology. Deepest apologies for anyone who works in this industry if I've been butchering the language. But it's envisioning not just the business you want to start, but you as the entrepreneur. It's envisioning not just the art you want to sell, but you as the artist. The manifestations, the intentions to set this week are really around you, how you want to feel, how you want to be. The logistics will differ. You know, 2016, 2017, Haley thought for sure she would be in New York City working in the publishing industry. And that is simply not how the cookie crumbled. And I really like how the cookie crumbled. And I think she would too, because the core theme of why I wanted to move to New York, I want to work in the publishing industry, I wanted to live a life that I was passionate about, I wanted to do what I loved, I wanted to live in a city that inspired me, and all of that is the case. Just the details are a little different. The logistics are a little different, but I was clear on how I wanted to feel. I was clear on how I wanted to live and who I wanted to be. And that's the case. May not be publishing industry, may not be New York, but I have fulfilled the prophecy of being a Quantrell, like the journal states. And so it's contemplating, who do you want to be in this next era? And Neptune energy is associated with dreams. So your dreams can be very vivid at this time. Neptune energy also heightens escapism. And so you may want to escape from your world this weekend. And sometimes we lose ourselves to find ourselves. Like I said, we turn our phone on Do Not Disturb and go on a hike and we feel renewed on the other side of it. We get lost into a movie and we find bits of ourselves reflected in the main characters. We put our nose in a book and we feel all of the feelings with the characters within the book. Like sometimes we have to disconnect from our ego self around I am Haley and I do this and all of this in order to reconnect with the real purity of who we are. Because a lot of the things that we construct of who it is that we are, it's not really who it is that we are to our core. Aries being the first sign of the zodiac, it represents the energy of who we are before the world told us who to be. You know, Aries represents beginning of life energy. And so it's getting back to even prior versions of self around, gosh, even when I was super young, I would smell my mom's perfumes and the smells felt like they took me to different places. Like sometimes we know so much when we're younger, then as we get older, we complicate and confuse everything. And so with Sun Neptune, it's getting back to the things that make you feel like yourself, or get back to your own purity, your own soul essence can also be a nudge here. But Neptune energy can make us want to avoid reality, escape, numb even. Neptune energy drinks up its surroundings. It loses the barriers and borders that separate where I start and you begin. So if you're in environments that are overwhelming, overstimulating, you could be drinking that all up and kind of intaking it. And sometimes we think it's us, you know, sometimes we feel certain emotions or we feel certain doubt, or sometimes we even feel certain shame that's not ours. And it's important to come back to self and return all that is not you. Because Neptune energy gets foggy in that way. You know, sometimes we can spend time in environments where maybe other people are really sad and we intake and absorb that energy. And then we come home and we're sad when that was never yours to carry. Just important with a Neptune transit to return back what is not yours, as well as sometimes we internalize certain things around, I'm so this or I'm so that. And it's like, are you? Are you too sensitive? Or were you just around people who had no idea what to do with someone who felt things deeply? Like sometimes we weave things into our own identity, into our own way of perceiving ourselves and our role in the world that was never ours. It's a facet of other people's projections on us or how it is that they receive us. So just important this week to be boundaried, to be in environments that you want to drink up, around friends who really support you, around nature that sustains you, around church or spiritual site environments that really pour into you. In the wee morning hours, the Taurus moon will sextile Jupiter in Cancer and Mars in Pisces. So if anybody's up at that time, honor your intuition, honor what it is that you feel called towards, as well as what you crave. You know, the Taurus moon is very connected to nourishment, food, senses. A lot of times our cravings can be indicating what nutrients our body is deprived of. So honoring that wisdom, as well as sometimes you just crave wearing your hair a certain way or doing your makeup a certain way or wearing certain clothes or a particular blanket. And it's honoring what your body is calling for, what your soul is calling for. To close out your evening, you may have some Sunday scaries, some Sunday anxiety. The Taurus moon aligns with Uranus. There could be something that threw a wrench in your plans. You could be exhausted, but have a hard time going to sleep, or this could be a random jolt of excitement. Excitement in the middle of the night to change your whole life, maybe like the vibe check. So my loves, that is our week. Let's give it a tea check to see how it blossomed. Not quite what I thought it was going to be, but that's okay. At least I'm trying new things with Aries season. So my loves, the Magic Monday mantra of the week is I bloom. A simple affirmation this week, but a powerful one. We are moving into a season of blooming. And yes, the literal season of spring. If you're here in the Northern Hemisphere, the flowers do start to bloom and come alive again, but you are as well. And it's believing in the power of new beginnings. It's believing in debuting your petals and letting the world see your majesty, letting this world see your beauty that was always within. You know, sometimes we feel the potential seated within us. We feel that burning passion around, I want to dive more into this passion I have for perfumes. I want to unleash all of my creative potential. I want to do something with these gifts that the divine gave me that I sense and I feel with the Pisces New Moon this week. And you feel that within. And when you bloom, because you will, it's inevitable. This is all of the beauty and the gifts that the divine gave you all along. And it's just you giving yourself permission to bloom, permission to be seen. And yes, sometimes things within our outer life, we see the fruits of our labor, we see the blooming of our potential, but it took a lot to get to that point. It took believing in the seed so much so that we watered it intentionally. It took time. You know, good things do take time. And the fearlessness to believe in new beginnings, to water the seed when it's just that, a seed. And the outer world doesn't know the beauty that is within, the beauty of your petals that will eventually bloom out into the world. And it takes a lot of courage to believe in your own potential, to believe in something when it is not yet manifest. But that is exactly what you are being called to do with this astrology. And so my loves, if you made it to the end of your forecast, go ahead and comment below a flower emoji. My loves, happy spring if you're in the Northern Hemisphere. Happy Aries season for whichever hemisphere you're tuning into. Let's all bloom. Let's bloom more than my tea did. Let's do that. I'll see you again, same time, same place next week in my cosmic corner of the internet. And until then, stay magical.